assumptions about God will affect how you approach God. I heard that from someone recently, and it stuck with me ever since. I can't tell you how many times I've run in the opposite direction of the throne room because I assumed there's no way he'll take me back after what I've done. There's no way he'll embrace me after all this time. I have approached the Lord with the assumptions that I'm only going to be met with punishment or condemnation or even passivity, that he doesn't actually care that deeply about what's happening with me. One of my favorite verses is, "The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run in and are safe." I read this verse and think to myself sometimes, so the name of the Lord is safe, but I don't always feel like he's safe to run to. And that's the challenge. It's easy for me to be led solely by emotions and to make them my shepherd. And emotions are beautiful, but they're not very good masters because they're not always true. His word reveals him as the father who receives his children back even after they've spoiled their inheritance and spent their days living like pigs. The question is, do we really believe God's character is true and that he's worthy to be trusted? In the last few months, I've been learning the simplicity of choice. I don't always feel what the gospel provides me. I read verses like, "There is no more condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. Love keeps no record of wrongs. We can approach God's throne of grace with boldness." These are all very powerful truths, but I don't always feel them. Sometimes I don't feel like I can approach God with boldness or that he's really forgiven me, but it's true. And I think there is such power and freedom in making the conscious choice in my mind to believe God really is who he says he is, regardless of what I feel. And it's not even blind belief. He actually has the track record to prove it. I've been studying Psalm 23 recently, the famous psalm, because the verse, "Your rod and staff comfort me," kept coming up to me. And I was curious, why would a shepherd's rod and staff be comforting to a sheep? A few commentators I read through explain that the rod is for defense, to protect the sheep from any potential predators, and the staff is for control, to discipline, redirect, and correct the sheep who are very helpless and prone to wandering. So now I read this psalm seeing Jesus as the good shepherd and me as his sheep. Shepherd is not a glamorous title. It's actually a very humble and lowly role, but he chooses it for the love of his sheep. And a good shepherd cares deeply about the well-being of his sheep. So, how much more the God of the universe, who is completely without evil and perfect in all of his ways? I love even what one commentator writes. He says, "Discipline is security." Yeesh. That'll preach right there. Discipline is security. So when David writes, "Your rod and staff comfort me," essentially he's saying, I find comfort in God's correction. How often do we thank God for his discipline? How often do we thank him for his conviction, his redirection, his correction, when we're helpless as sheep, wandering off into places, relationships, and mindsets that are so off course from God's will for our lives. Even when you see a shepherd's staff, it has a hook-like shape to it that's large enough to reel the sheep back in when it wanders off. In all the times that I've withheld from making any moves out of fear that I would step outside of God's will, it's so comforting to know that God is so kind and sovereign that He will redirect us even when we've gone off course.